So thanks for doing this, Dave. I know from your Twitter feed you do about 6 interviews a day at the moment. So I don't know whether you're going to be amazing or you're going to be so bored of forever telling your story that it's going to be painful. But how many have you done today?
Oh, I haven't done one today.
Oh, it's the first today.
Yeah, no.
There forever seems to be camera crews.
Yeah, it has been pretty full on, but in a good way. I mean, it's, like I always say to everyone, like, be worried when they don't want to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, unfortunately, this one is going to drag you down into your murky past of advertising as well. So you probably haven't covered that much.
I haven't actually. No.
Have you not? Okay.
No.
So I've got to start by saying, where were you born?
Okay. I was born in Pukekohe, which is in New Zealand, North Island, and
you were born in New Zealand.
Yeah, my parents sort of emigrated.
Yeah,
out there, and then had 3 kids out there, and then decided that my mum just got so went to New Zealand and said, actually, God, it's really like Wales, but not Wales.
And your mum was from Wales, presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of came back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and that was in the Cardigan Bay area, I'm imagining.
Well, actually, it's about 2 hours away. We were brought up in the Romney Valleys, so and we got to know Cardigan because Claire's mum and dad had a caravan, and we sort of got to know it over a period of time. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was the first ad you can ever remember seeing?
Oh, well, I don't think it was an ad, but I mean, my bedroom, much to my mother's dismay, was, apart from the windows and apart from the door handle, it was Adidas posters, Puma posters, Nike posters, Levi's posters, Wrangler posters, and including the ceiling was all these posters, and I had to get all these posters free. So I was
from magazines you'd send off for a free poster?
I'd send off from the companies, and I'd send them off ideas, and they send me posters.
Are you kidding?
It was my way to get posters and stickers. So.
What, you would essentially write ads, send it to them, and they'd give you a free poster?
Yeah.
How old were you at this point?
I don't know, 13, 12 or something. Yeah. I was just into it. So.
Wow. And why? I wonder why that particular category, which has ended up obviously being what you're in now.
I guess I was a football fan, so, and like football boots, and I was just intrigued by why certain players would wear certain boots, and I used to literally at one point I knew what every player wore. Do you mean I knew almost. I don't know it now, but I used to know it. I was just going God, he's just swapped from Adidas to, not so much Nike then, but other brands.
Umbro or whatever it would have been.
Yeah, well, Gola, and in the very early days.
I wonder what got you. I wonder what. That seems so geeky and so unusual. I wonder what.
And I literally, I could tell you, was it Adidasler? Came up with this screw boot, and in the 1954 World Cup.
So how would you have found that sort of stuff out then? Because obviously that's pre-internet.
I used to put a tie on. I used to blag my way into these sports trade shows. I was never let on the big stands like Adidas because they always appointments only. But I used to get all the manuals and catalogues, and I used to come home. I used to literally not be able to my back was in half because I was carrying all these books, and I used to just devour literally all the information. I was just into it.
And was that with a view?
Quite geeky.
Was that with a view of moving into that as a job, or that was just what you loved at the time?
Literally just. I even considered jobs. I was just going, no, I'm into this, and I just had got all the data. I think we're just a bit geeky like that. I remember, my brother, he's almost spent 2 years on a sofa, didn't move, read everything he could about autosport and motor racing, and then he put an ad in the back of Autosport Weekly and said, I'll work anywhere, any place, any time, as long as it's motor racing. And Sir Jack Brabham phoned him up.
Wow.
So I think we're just geeky on different things. So and he got a job in motor racing. And,
From his ad?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So Jack Brabham phoned him up and it's like... But, I mean, and I did the same in terms of, like, that world. I literally knew... I had scrapbooks. I mean, we've talked about scrapbooks before, but I used to have scrapbooks on every, like, ad or every different team assigned for, Adidas or Umbro. I was just really, like, geeky on it.
Uber
And to the point I was getting, Welsh rugby players... I'd get, going like get them to wear Patrick boots and like all sorts of. I can't. I mean, now if I think about it, it's just what the hell was I doing?
Say that again. You were.
Well, I got some of the Welsh rugby union players. I mean, they weren't paid at the time, so I was like getting them to wear certain boots and things, and like I was a little kid.
What do you mean? How did that work? What on behalf of Patrick? I remember that brand, Patrick.
I was just going. I said to Patrick, I can get all these players to wear them, and all of a sudden, I can't say which players, but like suddenly they were wearing Patrick boots, and I was like going, "Oh, I did that."
And how old were you at the time?
Like 13, 14, maybe 15.
Like a little Doogie Howser.
Yeah, and I did that with like Lecoq Sportif thing, and like. I said that you should put your logo on the back of the numbers, and they did it, and they were the first company to do it, and on the football strips. And I don't know why. I was just kind of like I literally go up to the brand that doesn't exist anymore, Buckter, and said, "Like, if you don't do all these things, you probably won't exist." And they went, "Oh, thank you very much."
So, why didn't you gravitate towards that when you left school?
Well, I tried. I borrowed, borrowed 500 quid from my dad. I mean, he wasn't like a rich man, and so that was a lot of his savings. And I tried to start something at 16. I didn't do my A levels, and within 6 months I was out of business and bankrupt, and going, oh fuck, okay, this is not so good.
And what was the plan then? What was the business?
Well, it was selling, Nike, Adidas, all these like big brands, but like discontinued lines, so they'd be a lot cheaper. And like my dad said, like, well, like I had to go and tell him. I said, look, lost all the money. And he said, well, what did you learn? And I said, well, I said. Well, I learned I loved it. And he said, well, the next step is to learn how to be good at it. Right. I was going, okay.
So what happened between then and going to college on an ad course?
Well, I kind of had to go and go back, to college, do my A-levels in 1 year, and I sort of worked pretty hard, got them. I went, I was revising, doing work, going running, trying to forget about revising, and then go and revise more, then go running the next day. And so I got my grades, went to Bristol College, didn't do any work because I'd worked so hard in that previous year and got thrown out quite rightly. And then I was going, oh, actually, what am I going to do now? And it's kind of interesting. I mean, I literally remember, this is how old I am, I was in a telephone box, which don't exist anymore, and phoning my mum and going, oh, I've been kicked out, and so I'm going to come home. But she was going, oh, okay, well, and then, she bought me a book, and it was terrible, and I took it back to W.H. Smith, and, I found this book, Ogilvy on advertising.
Wow, that's the first book I got on advertising too.
And I just read it, and I read it, and I read it. I must have read it, I don't know how many times. And there was a bit about Creative Department, and they didn't need any qualifications or something. And I'm going, right, that's the thing. I haven't got any qualifications. I like ideas.
A match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Funny, because that's the first book that I got on advertising. Similar thing.
Yeah.
And I can remember pictures of Ogilvy's chateau.
Yeah, literally. I remember that, and the clock ad, and
The Rolls Royce
thing. And I was just like, it just completely opened my eyes. I'm going, there's, you can get that job where you can just do ideas, and I'm going, oh, that's a good job. Let's go do that.
So then you applied to, was it Hounslow you went to?
No, I didn't go to like any sort of college. I mean, I was on the Dole for a year and a half. We did about 150 different interviews, and
so when you say we, who was that? I thought you were.
Well, I mean, I did it with I teamed up pretty early on when we were in London with Ajab,
right.
Samurai Singh, bless him. And, we literally toured the circuit trying to get a job, anywhere. And it was, our book wasn't very good. Then it got quite good. Then it got pretty good. And then eventually it was good enough to get a job. But it took us a year and a half to get it to that one.
So where did you want to be? Were you one of the Dave Trott disciples?
Well, I liked I think at that time GDT was the place, but I also liked FCO. I went to see a talk which is in Midori House, which is where Monocle magazine is now, and he did a talk on Nike, and he said that he was literally his least paying client, and his entire staff were just working on it day and night to do great stuff. And actually, they did really great stuff at the beginning.
Yeah, Nike, Macaro swears by them, and
yeah.
It
was that went through many iterations, I think.
Was that Ian Potter gave a talk?
Yeah, Ian Potter. Yeah.
Funny. Yeah. Both FCO and Ian Potter are sort of completely forgotten, but they were a great agency at the time.
It was a great agency, and they did really quite. I mean, Nike at that point was very purist running only running, and they did great stuff, and nobody knew them in this country. Do you mean it was? It's not the company we know now. Do you mean?
No, absolutely. So did you go to that talk because of your love of sports footwear rather than advertising?
Yeah. I was just going, well, it's actually two things. I'm going, it's advertising, and he's going to talk about Nike. So I'm going, I'll take that all day long.
So that only strengthened your resolve to get into advertising?
Yeah.
Seeing what they were doing?
Yeah.
So then, did you do any placements or get straight into Sartres?
We couldn't actually get to it was really odd. We kind of we worked really hard. I mean, our book was obviously not very good at the beginning and got, half decent towards the end, but we kind of didn't seem to have any luck with any placements. I think we had one towards the very end with FCB.
Right.
And that was over a year of trying. We eventually got one. But I think that was the only one we had, and we just couldn't, for the life of us, couldn't get anyone. I think placements seem to be more set up for the colleges and stuff, and colleges are pretty good at getting their students in there, and that's great. But we found it a bit hard to burst our bubble, really.
So how did you get into Sartres? Because I remember I went for an interview once at Sartres, and I think I've mentioned this before, and with Mike McKenna.
Yeah.
And when we were waiting to see Paul Arden, someone said, good luck. He took on a team last week, but they brought in a live sheep with them to the interview, and he loved that. So obviously we felt like a couple of squares sitting there sheepless and with just a book. But
just in my head.
Yeah. But so and that would have been a similar time. So how did you see Arden? Was that your?
No, I think we'd somehow got in there, not so much as a placement or something. We just got a room. I think we were seeing. Well, there's two stories. One, I initially made it an impression at Sartres in when I was on my own. I went down to the FT and got some paper, and then I went and bought some letter set, and then I sort of snuck in through reception and said I had to make a delivery to Jeff Stark.
Right.
And at the time, there were some famous ads for YTS. And
I remember those, yeah.
And I did my version of that ad, basically saying, you should hire me. But I sort of cut out his ad on the FT, and I put it on his desk. And then it was pretty early in the morning, so there was nobody in the creative department. Then I snuck back out. And then at 11 o'clock in the morning, I found out and said, what did Jeff think of my ad? And the girl laughed, said, oh, it's you, is it? And I'm going, you should come in. He saw my book and it was terrible. But he's going, look, actually, you obviously got some initiative. So I think I became on their radar then. Then when I teamed up with AJAB, we saw Simon Dickett, who actually was very articulate about why something didn't work, and actually he was really sort of he was really kind of interesting because he was a real thinker about the ads and stuff, and that was a really good way for us to make it better. Then eventually, I think I can't remember exactly, but I mean we'd found a room that was either used for storage, and we chucked everything into a cupboard and we made it our own. And it was at that point they thought maybe we were already hired. And then we came under Tim Mellor's wing, and I think Tim and Tim persuaded Paul that they should give us a job. So it's kind of definitely through the back door we got in.
Oh, perfect. So you were in Mellor's group.
Yeah. And Tim was great, actually. Really, he was. I literally remember him I taken an ad in one day, and he was like, "This is terrible. You've really got to stop doing this shit."
He said that.
Yeah, and he kicked it around the room, and I'm going, "Oh my god." I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, that is terrible. We need to stop doing that. Yeah, we should do some good stuff." And then he won't kick it around the room. But Tim was very, very human. That doesn't paint a good picture of Tim. He was absolutely brilliant, actually.
In what sense?
Well, I think he was a real human being. He wanted to understand the people in front of him. He was a real an understander of human beings. And I think that's what the work he wanted almost to emotionally connect. So, right. And that was the first. It wasn't just a sell, or you could go. You could sell through, the head, or you could sell through the heart. And he was the first person I'd met who wanted to sell through the heart. And I thought that was a pretty interesting journey.
That is interesting. Well, it's interesting for a couple of. I've tried to interview Tim. He's the only person who said no so far.
Oh, really?
And partly I'd like to interview him because lots of his work at the time seemed very airy-fairy to me. Whereas in retrospect, it stands up very well because it is much more emotional. And at the time, there wasn't much emotional stuff around. It was all very logical.
Well, and all the it is, are you stuff. And you're going, at the time, you go, was it really selling better journalism? It was selling independence, of course, but it was trying to get to you to make you feel something. And that was pretty, and it does stand up, actually.
It does. I mean, funnily enough, I tweeted that last week, that campaign.
Yeah.
Now, usefully, from this period, I've tracked down an old interview from you at the time. Here's the first observation. You're wearing double denim.
Oh, yeah.
Denim.
I literally know the one. It was Craig Review.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Denim jeans, obviously, and a denim shirt, which is ironic, given where you are. So here's what Tim said. He said, they're work junkies, they're a bit aggressive, but they've realised this business is all about flogging things, quite unusual. Most creatives think it's about airy-fairy, arty-farty stuff.
Okay.
So that's what he said about you. It's quite interesting, that it seemed to me at the time he did airy-fairy, arty stuff, which I think in retrospect was wrong. But but he says a bit aggressive, which doesn't sound like you at all. So did you have to be more aggressive in that environment?
I think aggressive in terms of chasing work. because we were Johnny Juniors, nobody really wanted to give us work, and we would I would go on we would go on the account floors and go on briefs that no one else wants to do. I think we were hungry, and we were definitely we didn't want to sit in a room and just wait. I think when you've been on the dole for a year and a half, you don't like that very much. It's not a nice experience, and the only way you're there going, you don't want to wait for chances to come. And actually, things like doing Goodman's in-car stereo stuff. I mean, nobody really wanted to do it. We met an accountman on the stairs, going, "Got any briefs? Got any briefs?" He's going, "Well, I've got something, but there's not much budget." I'm going, "Perfect, we'll do it." And
was that quite early on? I think that was great, that work. I mean, that seems probably when you were there, I would say that was probably Saatchi's peak. So creatively, financially, whatever. Yeah, they seem so powerful.
Yeah, it was. It's funny. I mean, you know this world better than I do, but there was confidence. Yeah. I mean, confidence in an agency is important, and when that's lost, everything gets harder. And there was a certain amount of confidence in Saatchi's, and when they had that confidence, it was they were incredibly in their flow, and it was interesting to be part of that thing.
So could you feel that then? Because it's probably, I would have thought, only in retrospect can you sort of gauge that. Did you just think this is advertising, or?
I just felt there was a confidence, and it went away one day. I think literally when they went to buy a bank, that was the moment that they lost the confidence. And you felt that then being there? Yeah, no, everything was harder the next day, literally harder.
Oh, wow.
It went away. It was a funny thing, and you go, you don't know when you're at your peak, but I think that was literally the next day. They were on their way down. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. So that campaign is almost emblematic of that confidence that you've got this scruffy little dodgy low rent car radio manufacturer. I don't know whether I'm doing them justice there, but called Goodman's. I think they're British, aren't they?
Yeah, but
yeah. So they run this uber cool 48 sheet poster campaign with Helmut Newton shooting erotic pictures of couples in cars for Goodman's in car radio. I mean, you could only do that at that time in that place, I would imagine. Yeah, everyone else would have been doing pictures of radios, desperately telling you how good they are. To do something that bold was...
Yeah, and it got banned 3 days later, and just go, oh my God. Yeah. And we had, but Goodman's loved it because it had so much publicity from it. And fair dues, Ajab went and shot with Helmut Newton, came back. Paul didn't like the shots. I didn't even go on the shoot. There wasn't enough budget.
Right.
And Paul came in, and and he's going, this shit.
Really,
this shit.
brilliant.
And I'm going, oh. And Ajab was this, Ajab was so proud of it, and quite rightly. It was an amazing piece of work, and Paul wasn't happy. He's going, you're going to have to phone him. There's going to be a reshoot. I'm going, all right, Paul, I didn't go on the shoot. Why do I have to phone him?
So did you have to reshoot them?
Well, we didn't. When Paul calmed down, and we.
They look good to me.
They were amazing, and because it got banned and never won any awards. But I'm going, Guy, it was definitely a piece of work.
So you couldn't enter that for a DNA?
You couldn't enter it.
Good.
I think it got entered, and then it was up for winning something, and then somebody said, "Hang on, didn't this get banned?" And then it got chucked out. So and that's the rules. So it's fine.
And I presume that was funded by, one of their big clients who did bad work.
No, I think they actually
Did Goodman's come up with the cash to pay for that?
Yeah, they paid the cash for it, but knowing that it would probably it will go up and come down very quickly.
What?
And the sell was, this is how much media coverage you're probably going to get. So it was quite calculated, and the client paid, but it was pretty brave, and the client loved it, to be honest.
Did they really? I think it was great.
Because they had so much publicity. Literally, they're just going, oh my God, someone's been going crazy.
So how was your time with Paul there? Did you have a lot to do with him?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, I mean, it was hard. I mean, Paul's, was a very complex character, and, and brilliant, and had an intelligence about stuff that he couldn't always articulate. Do you mean? And so, but we would go down on the weekends and work in his cottage down, I can't remember where it was now, but, and we didn't know it at the time. He's, it was going, oh, but you were his favourite. So I'm going, really? He definitely didn't tell us that.
Did it make you feel like that?
Yeah, never. Literally, we never knew. But there was a time where he was going to go and leave and start his own agency, and he talked to us about coming with him, and so we must have had a good relationship. But he's it's complex. I mean, we would argue sometimes, and one night, he really pissed me off, and I just I literally went home. I was really pissed off with him because he'd done something, and I didn't say good night to him. And 2 years later, he's gone, he didn't say good night that night. Literally, I'm going, oh Jesus, man. But I really did love him, and I loved working under him. I literally, it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Do you mean I felt and still feel how lucky I was. Do you mean, it's like that thing about choose your bosses carefully.
Mm.
And for me to be around somebody who was willing to take risks, who was always pushing, would be brutally honest. Sometimes we go, oh my God, okay. But I also get so excited about an idea that he's just like a child would. Do you mean?
So what was the biggest thing you think you learnt from Paul, or that you took away once you'd left?
I think it's that, listening to, he always listened to, even if he couldn't articulate why he liked it, he just went, I just like it. I just know it's right. And his ability to listen to his instinct and gut, and stick to it. I mean, and even when other people just go, no, Paul, this one's much better. He's going, no, this is the one. And he felt it.
Mm.
And sometimes he couldn't explain it, but he felt it. And so he's going, and other people will feel it too. And I'm going, oh God. So to listen to your feeling was an odd thing. And I remember I wrote a line. It was for a whiskey from a really northern, one of the far-reaching islands, and I wrote this line. So yes, it's it's a beautiful whiskey from a bastard of an island,
right,
because the weather was terrible. And he's going, I love it. It'll lose the client, but I do love it. And he said, I was saying, well, do you want me to write something else? No, fine. If we're going to do great work,
got to take that risk.
We'll take the risk, and if they don't like it, then we won't do anything else. And he was always doing that. He was there going, how do we push this thing? And then, the interesting thing is with Paul, that family tree of people who worked under him have gone on, done very interesting things because they had their mentor doing. And it was you literally can't buy that stuff. Do you mean to work under Paul Arden for 7-8 years? You go, wow, amazing.
It's interesting because that's how it seems to me from a distance. You can look at when he turned up at Sarch's, and you look at when he left, and the work was so much better in his period before than after. That's the only thing that changed. But often you talk to people who used to work with him as his partner, and they're very disparaging, disappointingly. And I don't know why, but Perhaps they thought he got too much credit. I don't know, but
yeah, I think because he couldn't always articulate what he felt. I mean, I think sometimes that was kind of frustrating for some people. But the truth is, the moment he left, the work got worse.
Yeah.
And never reached that pinnacle again. I mean, so, and you go, I mean, and, the other thing is half the department were glad he left.
Were they? Yeah.
And the other half were, gutted because they knew what they meant. And they knew, that department wouldn't be as good again. The other half wanted an easy life, and you think, fine.
Yeah.
But he would push, and he would push, and he would push, and some people, they don't like being pushed.
So was Paul the one who gave you and Ajab the nickname Bing and Bong?
Oh, I think that was Tim.
Oh, was that Tim?
Yeah, I think nobody can remember our names. I don't know if half the people we met there knew our names. I don't think they knew I was David, and I didn't give a shit.
Did you not? Because obviously on the one hand, everybody in London knew there was a team there, an up and coming team called Bing and Bong.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you were known as Bing and Bong. So
yeah.
I don't know whether ultimately it was useful because it got you known, or whether it was a millstone.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just really interested in doing work. And I was just there we're going to work the system. Nobody thinks we're Johnny Juniors. Let's go and do some work. Then we do some good work, and then we get better briefs. And I was so hungry to learn. I didn't give it monkeys about all that stuff. I was just going, fine, whatever.
Useful.
If that makes us stand out, fine. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
Did you work or come across Charles Saatchi, who's obviously a bit of a recluse?
A little bit. I mean, oddly, my brother would have had, maybe more contact with him than I would because he was really into, go-kart racing.
Right.
And so my brother would go to the same circuit as him and probably race against him. And so.
Okay. Charles Saatchi used to race go-karts?
Yeah.
Wow.
But, and he'd, go down in his overall. He had a team, on 24-hour standby type thing. And
Charles Saatchi?
Yeah. He was really into it. And I don't know if you wouldn't know my brother from Adam, but I mean, they used to race against each other. So. But I mean, I met him when we were doing the Conservative campaign. So we'd all go down to Berkeley Square,
right.
And I'd done a poster which he loved, which is the L plate Labour, and it was and it researched the best poster they'd ever done type thing, but I think they found out quite early that they were going to win the campaign, so they stopped spending money.
Right.
So I mean, 10 days before, they're going, doorsteps are so good, we don't need to spend any more money. But
so you'd have to present your ideas to him, or you just
he
get briefed?
He would come in. There would be 8 of us in a room. And he's going, and it would be funny. He's going, hey, there's 9 of the brightest writers in London in this room, and there was 8 of us, and so we'd always have a laugh. And he's going, we need to crack this today, and him and Morris would be in the next room, have their little spats with each other, and they're going, you think, bloody hell, okay. But I mean, he was kind of, he would just look at something, and he would, he'd go and, and he loved really pithy things. I mean, he was just going, yes, no. And he always would ask Fergus Fleming, "What do you think?" Jeremy
He would.
Sinclair was,
that was one of his favourite.
And Jeremy Sinclair was he's so so bright and got to the point, and it was kind of interesting. You're there just going, wow, these guys, they're all at the top of their game. Do you mean?
So, why did you leave? So, did you leave just after the bank incident?
No, I mean, I left because we we pitched for the Adidas account because I mean the backstory is Louis Dreyfus had decided he wanted to buy Adidas.
And Louis Dreyfus was at Saatchi's at the time.
He was CEO of Saatchi's.
Yeah.
And I always kind of thought he was the coolest guy anyway. Wore jeans, was apparently going out with Kim Basinger, and then came in one day and said, I'm going to buy Adidas. And I'm going, oh my God. And I think, I think Charles and Morris and him had fallen out over something. And so, we were never going to win the Adidas pitch. I spent like months working on it, as did other people, and we literally didn't. We weren't going to win it. And so, I mean, and then at that point, I just gone, well, I sort of rediscovered. You going, God, that's the thing now. That's the thing that really kind of makes me come alive. And so then I thought, well, okay, who's won the account? Right, how do I get a job there?
Oh, really? So it was that calculated?
Took big pay cut to go there.
Did you? So how did that come about? What, you got in touch with Tim, or you spoke to headhunters?
Oh no, I think Tony Barry was at that point going, look, I could get this job at this place, and I'm not sure about it. And I'm going, okay. I mean, as you know, didn't have the best reputation for being, the happiest place in the world.
Yeah, it's very quiet.
But they just won the Adidas account, and I'm going, okay, it doesn't really matter if it's what it's like. We'll put up with it. And so it was just the intention of, let's go and work on the Adidas thing and see where that went.
So you came in and went for an interview with Tim, and did you say, I'd love to work on Adidas, or you just went for it?
Tim wasn't that interested in... he wanted Tony Barry, and that was the person he wanted, and he said to Tony, go and find a partner, and two writers together wasn't an interesting experiment. I don't know if it worked. I'm not sure it did, but Tim wasn't that interested in hiring me, but he wanted to hire Tony. And I'm going, I don't really get, I don't care. I'm just going, I just want to work on the Adidas thing.
Interesting. From where you started pinning up the posters. So what did you find when you worked on Adidas? Well,
like Tim, right? He's a very smart writer. Did he truly understand the Adidas account? Probably, he wanted to make it too much like Nike. Kind of maybe muddy the water. And I think, some of the things that you did, you started to find quite a unique voice, just the lamppost and the A to B thing. I think then they were starting to find a voice. And he should have done much more of that stuff. Do you mean more soulful? But I don't know if Tim's a very intelligent guy, so nobody's ever going to say he's not. But I think sport is a very emotional thing, isn't it? And it's not like the higher intelligence and emotional intelligence. But I kind of found it pretty interesting. Also, I was just going, oh God, yeah, I want to do this more. I'm not I admire Tim for his ability to write. I don't think he's the best manager in the world. It wasn't a super fun experience, but it was super important for me.
In what sense?
Well, because all the ads he didn't buy. I rolled them up and I started Howies.
Yeah.
So if he'd bought them, then I wouldn't have any stuff to start Howies with. And it gave me I was interested in, I think there's an interesting voice here. I think we can go and do this, start on T-shirts, and that became really, it sort of got Howies started.
So did that idea came about because you couldn't get work through Tim?
Yeah.
So literally
in some
that.
ways,
So
I
you
could be,
thought that's
super
interesting.
thankful.
There must be a way through.
Yeah. And I mean, things. I mean, Tim offered me the chance to go and be creative director in Ligas at San Francisco, which would only mean like having a further like distance away from like just faxing him ads that would blow out. So I was like, I might as well stay in London to do that.
Rather than getting rejected live, you get rejected via fax.
Yeah. And so I mean, so it was kind of like, it was kind of like an interesting time. You did some brilliant ads, and I still tell everybody about the ads you did there. And I remember literally going for a run, and you were saying about just the lamppost, and I'm going, jeez, that's. I remember when Arden saw the Benetton poster, and he just go, oh my God, he was devastated because he knew how good it was, and I was running, going, God, that ad is going to be amazing. And I didn't even know how it looked. I mean, but I knew it'd be on point. So I think I think for all of us it was an interesting experience. It was, but I wouldn't ever say it was easy.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that I didn't realise Howies had grown exactly out of that experience. I mean, I remember because I was involved in Howies for about a week and a half. And I remember, obviously, there were some of the rejected ads. I can remember Scars Make Better Stories Than Tattoos. And Life for a Limited Period and Only and others. And I can remember that you would boldly sneak out of the agency to go to BMX meets. Which wasn't really Tim's vibe. People accommodating that thing. And I thought, God, I'm just going to get fired if I do that. Plus, I didn't want to go to BMX meets. But it's interesting to kind of see a voice coming through on the work that isn't being taken up by Adidas, and then think that feels like a brand, presumably at that point.
And there are things. I mean, voices are they're hard. You can write an ad, but can you create a voice? I mean, Dan Wyden is Wyden Kenny is still independent. Still working with Nike's, and the compound interest of voice that they've created for Nike, is been, and ultimately that's why they're ahead of Adidas. Do you mean? Because of the voice they created, and I just think that thing of doing a voice for a company, a brand, is the hardest thing to do in advertising. Because it's so hard, it's so unique. And Dan Wyden created it. Adidas haven't had it, and they should have won. Adidas
should have won. What you felt that at the time?
Well, I mean, no, I think they had 90% of the market, right? I mean, it was long before, before we started writing on it. It was the Ian Potters of the world. It was the Dan Wydens of the world. Gave them that voice, and they captured people's that 18 inches from your head to your heart. I mean, it's the longest journey for a brand to take, and very few brands take you on that journey, and Nike did, because it made you feel something. But Adidas had everything to lose. They had 90% of the market. It's pretty hard to go from complete monopoly on the market almost. It's. I think some of the stuff you were doing was starting to find a voice for Adidas, and I think they should have gone more and done more of that stuff. I think that would have been really interesting for Adidas then.
Well, I think at the time Nike was very glitzy and a little bit gaudy and brash, wasn't it? So trying to find a more soulful thing
approach and
felt like a thing to do.
Yeah.
But I remember also you got made to write lots of long copy Harrods ads.
Yeah.
Which was obviously a sign of...
just the worst. I mean, I kind of I think maybe it's a good discipline and learning to write and stuff. And I mean, Tim's, he can knock that stuff off in his sleep. strength.
Yeah.
He's a great copywriter. It just, but in terms of building a team, you just don't want to be around him. Which is a shame, right? Because he should have an incredible, successful agency, independent, doing great work, because he's one of the best copywriters there's ever been. But it's that talent stack, isn't it? You go, oh yes, you're a writer. Can you be a human being and look after people?
Yeah.
You need many things to run an agency.
Well, that felt like you were being punished, right? These long copy Harrods ads. You must have learned something. It must have been useful in some way in retrospect, but it felt like punishment.
I think it was a hard time. It was interesting. The thing is, if I didn't go there, I wouldn't have started Howies. So I'm there going. It was like super useful to me. It wasn't an easy journey, and he has his ways, which was but it wasn't for me. It's not the way you build a team, build a company, and we didn't get on. So, and that's fine.
So do you think you learned a lot, even if it's what not to do, or? Yeah,
no, I think like how not to treat people, how to build a team, how to build, like that thing of where hard work, is made harder when the atmosphere is not great, so a lot of stuff, and also the thing of I learned that actually I loved doing the Adidas thing because I was a thing, and actually all those ads that got bombed out meant I went and did Howies doing it.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting journey, but I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't gone to Legist. So in some ways I'm super thankful to Tim.
So you leave to go to work with David Abbott.
Yeah.
Who is a different kind of manager.
Oh, completely.
So how did that come about?
Well, I was kind of getting to the point where I'm going, actually, nothing I write is, getting anywhere. And I was there going, well, I was kind of interested in at that point, going, well, I can go and start Howies and find somewhere easier to work, get paid a lot more money, and have more time to go and do the Howies thing. And all these big boards, they're all competitive. So David, I didn't get a chance to resign. David Abbott phoned Tim up and said, I'm going to take David.
After you'd obviously met David.
Yeah, and David was just a gentleman, and he had a great sense of humor, and was always super respectful of people, and it was chalk and cheese. It was literally, I'm super fond of that time with him, and when we moved buildings, I was literally, I worked with a really fantastic talent, Rob Oliver, and so we were two Welsh guys in the office, and when we moved, we were next door to him.
To David, yeah. Yeah,
and so he'd done the office plan, so in some respects it was a real endorsement of he quite liked us.
Yeah.
But he was absolutely brilliant. David Abbott and Paul Arden, for me, oh my God, they are very, very special people in the advertising world, and it was a real pleasure, and actually the funny thing is I was so focused on doing Howies, I got relaxed on the advertising, and actually the more relaxed I got on it, the more success we had with it. And,
in the sense that you weren't stressing, you were just kind of...
Yeah, no, it's just kind of, we'll do it. And I worked with a guy called Rob Oliver, who was he was a real talent. He had some brilliant ideas, and I mean, I was just like, I was lucky to be in that room with him. So it was, and we pitched for the COI business, and I think Abbott Mead pitched 17 times for it.
Right. Wow. Really?
And not won it. And then so me and Rob did some work, and we won it. And so like Abbott came into the room where he was like literally like a little kid.
Wow.
And,
so which bit did you pitch for? Drink Drive or?
I think we pitched for both, but we won Killer Speed.
Right.
But they were literally bounded into the room, and it was like, it meant something to them. They'd done it, I don't know, 17 times. The exact figure, but it was close to that. So, but I mean, it was just you go and present him work, and he would think about it, and we'd talk, and it was just so civil. It was literally they're going, oh my God, well that's what it's like. It was, it's different to Paul. It was very instinctive, but he was, he knew how to build and look after people. It was very interesting to watch.
So you took a lot away from David.
Oh
presumably.
Yeah, and like how not to do it, how to do it, building a space where people can do the best work they've ever done. Is something that I'm fascinated by, and building those cultures where creative people can go and show the world what they can do. I think that's pretty interesting.
So you've gone from somewhere that both worked in a different way, but somewhere that tries to get you to do your best work through fear, and somewhere that tries to get you to do your best work through confidence. Yeah. Presumably, and obviously you preferred the latter.
And Abbott would always say, flowers bloom in the sunshine. And I'm going, they do. And if you look at Dan Wyden, it's he hires creative people and lets them fly, and he trusts them, and that it's like fear. You can get some stuff out of people, but actually long term, it's not the most creative environment. You have to be pretty loose to do the best work you've ever done.
So when you went to Abbott Mead, the thing in the back of your head was, I'm going to develop Howies. This is a sort of stop off to that. Yeah. How long were you at Abbott Mead in the end? 3 years?
I don't know. I should know, but I think maybe I would say 5 years. I mean,
was it that long?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I'd have to check actually. I think it was. Yeah, maybe around that time. But I mean, I sort of kept getting pay rises, and they put me on the board, and it was like, oh, okay. But all the time they had this massive, heavy-duty photocopier, and I was hitting it on a Friday night, and I was doing the Howies catalogues.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. I'd heard that you used to do the early catalogues on their photocopier.
Yeah, and I could see the bar. They were on the bar Friday night. I was hitting this thing so hard, and I'm sure I shortened his life. And as long as I did my job and I was doing it well, and they give me nice pay rises, I was going, well, I'm going to hit that photocopier for all it's worth. And that's how we started the Howies catalog.
So, what was the plan with the catalog? Obviously, you're selling them off a page, but what was the?
I was kind of it was funny. I mean, we'd built up a really cool cult following BMX skateboard shops, and but then I sort of learned how bad cotton was for the environment, and the only company doing organic cotton T-shirts was Patagonia. So I got in touch with Patagonia and gone, can I get hold of some cotton T-shirts? And I've always had a good relationship with Patagonia, and they said yeah. And so I went and phoned all the shops in, one morning, and I told the shops, going, look, the T-shirts are going to have to sell for £30 because they're going to be organic, and I'd lost every account in a day.
Wow.
And I remember going home and Claire's going, how's your day? And I'm going, very efficient. Most people spend years trying to lose their business, and I did it in the morning. But at that point, so the only way to sell was to go and do a catalogue.
In the sense of what you could talk more, you had more of someone's time to explain.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to sell, and otherwise we'd have to not do organic T-shirts. And at the time, people hadn't got their head around organic milk. I mean, it was quite, we were ahead of things, and we working with some guys doing our website, and they just come back from a conference and gone, the first thing they're going, you've got to get a blog. I'm going, what's a blog? And so we had the first blog, for a brand, almost in, I think we were one of the, if not the first. I mean,
So what year are we talking? 2004?
I'm just trying to think. I don't know. I have to I'm terrible with dates, but I have to go and think about it.
The thing that's interesting to me is this is very early on in when you're doing brochures and blogs. Yeah. People weren't talking that much about their products, and they didn't have many views. The whole idea of your purpose and all of the new names that people come up with these things. It wasn't around then that you should wang on about all your product details and what you think about the planet. Yeah. So you were very early on that. Yeah. So why was that? Why did you...
I just felt, I think that writing all the Adidas thing, I kind of felt like there was a voice going on this stuff. And the first ad we ever wrote of Howies was, we want to make you think as well as buy. And that was the thing that I thought, oh, that's really interesting. If a company actually, yes, we've got to sell T-shirts, and they said, well, what if it made you think as well as buy? And it was kind of that was, I don't know, it was kind of there wasn't too many people out there, with that set of thoughts. And we were just, it was kind of, we were learning. I mean, it was kind of, it was all, the whole Howies thing was sort of slightly chaotic. And we would go to work. We sort of started in 95, and we got our first paycheck in 2001.
Wow.
And, but we would go, we met somebody, who's the beauty of coincidences. So we went snowboarding in Maribel. The Chalet Maid's boyfriend was a skateboarder. We met him when we came back. He then, by day would run Howies. And then he resigned, and he said he's going to go and start something with this unknown illustrator from Bristol. And after 6 months, they stopped doing it. But the unknown illustrator was Banksy.
No, really.
And so clown skateboards that nobody knows about. Banksy. Jeff and Banksy were doing something together, and but it didn't work. I don't know if you can get any clown skateboards now, but they couldn't sell them for 40 quid.
Right. Wow.
And then so he came back to work for me then, and so that was the whole chaos of Howies. He was doing really interesting things. Because it didn't really have to be a business for the first 5 years, because I was just funding it with my salary. We just didn't care about it very much.
So what was your goal then at that point? Just to carry on as you were going, or did you think at some point I'm going to jump ship?
I tell you the interesting point. I was in Abbotmead. I was doing really well. They put me on the board. They wanted me to send me on presentation courses, because I didn't really want to go to meetings and stuff. And I was quite happy just writing.
Yeah.
And I picked up a magazine, and it was the top 50 brands in the UK, and I think, I don't know, again, I don't know if it's the exact figure, but it was something like this. You know, Adidas was 12th, Howies was 9, and Nike was 6.
Right.
And I was
when you were still at Abbott Mead?
Still at Abbott Mead, and I was like going, actually, I put the magazine down, and I said, look, to myself, I'm going, like, yeah, other people are taking Howies much more seriously than I was. And maybe if I really wanted it to work, what I would have to do is go and give it my time. And I put the magazine down, and I went home. I said, Claire, yeah, look, and things going well. She had imagination, which was like a pretty interesting place, doing interesting things. And, we're having a nice life. We'd finally... I was finally on some good money. I was working with a very talented guy, working with in an agency that actually treated you as a human being. So it was good times. Except, I really wanted to go and do something else, and so it was. We had a glass of wine, and just going, and. We just had our first daughter, and just going, look, should we go and take a risk and move back to Wales and go and do this thing that we'd never done Howies full time. Like everybody else had done it but us. We'd just done it on the weekends or in some holidays.
So you went in and resigned, presumably, within a week or so. So did you resign to David?
No, David had, I think that was part of that also thing, that David had left, and they'd made Peter Suter creative director, and David was a pretty unique person, and I was like, I just felt lucky to learn from him. In the same way as I was lucky to learn from Paul Arden, and you just suck any information up or any learning you can have, and that had stopped then. And me and Peter Suter didn't really see eye to eye on stuff. And we did some Howies ads, with John Gorse. I thought they were pretty interesting. And then Peter decided he didn't want to enter him for D&AD. I'm going, okay, well, I don't really value what you think that much. So I paid for him to be entered, and actually they got in, and I bet him that, I said, and he had to pay me the bet.
Blimey. That's
but
not
that's I went snowboarding. I just went out like, I'm not feeling this anymore, and I literally faxed my resignation letter. I said, I'm not going to come back. I had a super great time, but they're going, you got to come back for a party. I'm going, yeah, sure, fine. I never did, but I had a good time there. It wasn't like it was, and some really bright people, fantastic. And I felt lucky to have been there and worked under David, and it was, and there's some really good, talented people there.
So what was it? So you resign. You're all on your own. What was your plan then for Howies?
Well, I think I knew that we need to go and do it full time. We'd never done that, and so we moved back. We went to West Wales, which we got to know, over 20 years of being there on holidays. But the plan was to go and let's go and build one of the best brands that I've ever been. And it was kind of, we were doing some interesting things. We didn't really know how to run a business. And, money was we were growing at 350% a year. It was just going crazy. And we kind of felt like after 2 or 3 years, we either need to, go and get some venture capital money, or we go and partner with somebody who will build this thing long term. And actually, we were very lucky. I mean, we had Steve Case, who started AOL, through his company Revolution. They were going to invest $25-30 million if we'd moved to Ojai in California. But we'd only just moved back to West Wales, and we were just getting settled. And then Claire was just going, look, let's as attractive as that is, we turned it down, but there were a lot of people super interested, and in the end we did a deal with Timberland just because they said they understood the importance of Wales. But we had companies, a company called PPR, who I think they've changed their name since, but they own Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, Stella McCartney, but also Puma. And they'd identified two companies they wanted to buy. One was Quicksilver and one was Howies.
And what was it they wanted to buy, do you think? Why do you manage to make such a name for yourself?
They saw it as, maybe a more punky version of Patagonia.
Right.
And in Patagonia, they have good relationships with them, and I went to visit them, and they do this thing called Footprint Chronicles, and apparently that came because of Howies, and they acknowledged actually Howies did some really interesting things, and they went and did them after that.
So I find it interesting, particularly what you say about Nike and the voice that Dan Wyden and the owner of Nike built, because obviously your voice was the Howies voice. I don't know how you measure these in terms of assets, but that was its biggest asset, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's, if you put that on a spreadsheet, the voice that you built was disproportionately huge. I mean, there was an incident. I don't know whether this carried down to you in Wales, but there was someone at BNP did a pitch, and they stole one of your monologues from your brochure, wholesale, and put it as the new client manifesto in this pitch. They won the pitch, and then not long after they'd won the pitch, the client was told, someone said, "Oh, that's from a Howies brochure," and then the BNP guy was fired. I don't know if you've heard that.
God.
Someone you know.
No, I didn't know.
And that wasn't uncommon. A lot of people were looking at that voice and that brand. In fact, another good example is the guys from Innocent. Who came down pre-Innocent, I think, didn't they?
Yeah.
And left with a voice, some ideas on how you brand the product. So, for example, I remember your jeans would say something like, "I'm dirty, I need a wash," inside.
Yeah.
And the kind of Innocent guys took that idea of sort of random fun messages in and around the product, and most people would think that was their thing because they became very well known from that, but that was taken wholesale. I mean, they sort of seemed to take your signature. They took a whole bunch of things back with them when they left your meeting. But where did that...
we started similar times, and I think it was that thing of it was a very interesting time because actually people hadn't done and that started talking like human beings, and it was kind of and having a bit of fun with stuff, and it was and all credit to Innocent. Dan used to write the bottles, and it's a funny thing. He's going, "Oh, do those words matter?" On the label of a bottle of a smoothie, you go, "Yeah, actually, they did matter, and they continue to matter because it's those many connections that actually mean a lot." I think, the Howies thing, literally, people all over the world going, "Oh, you did that." It was a very small, sometimes small, not in terms of business. It wasn't that big a business, but in terms of the like it seemed to strike a chord with lots of people at that time. So it's influenced. I mean, like, Patagonia doing the Footprint Chronicles, and they changed the website like after we launched ours, because we did like this is how far this product has traveled to get this. So the miles of a product hadn't been really considered before, and all those things. It was kind of it definitely had a moment.
So because they're at very different ends of the spectrum. One of them is quite worthy, although you can do it in a very friendly, nice way, and one of them is completely random, oddball. What's bringing those together?
I think that's a good question. I think it's that like you can feel the human behind them, and I think that like any voice is like is there a human behind it, and you connect with that human being. I think that's the thing that's always sort of guided me, and I think Patagonia, you can tell Yvonne and Melinda care deeply about the environment, and using their company to as a tool to make the change that they want to see in the world. And with the Howies thing, it was that thing of we do want you to make you think, but we also believe in infotainment, and if we bore you, you're not going to think too much. And so there was a level of irreverence there.
That's interesting, because I remember when we started working with you, DHM, doing work for Howies, and we did a campaign that I really liked, which was on denim, and then we were about to do some more stuff on merino, and I think I developed stuff in the same vein that we'd all liked from the previous stuff, and you said, it's just similar to the last stuff, why don't we start again, do something completely different? Which is such an odd thing for a client, as you were to say. Just doesn't have to feel like the last stuff. Let's just do a different thing, which we did all this sort of illustrated stuff. But somehow it's not as random as it appears. Let's just be different. Let's try. I don't know what's connecting all of those things, whether that's your impatience with or sort of anti-corporate feel. I don't know what it is.
I think you can. I think if you look at Nike, if you have a strong voice, you can take it in lots of different directions. And I think because there's always something to come back to, and I think sometimes we in terms of advertising, it's you can be freer with it, and I think it's you can go and put it over there, and and it's still over the long term. The voice is just finding different executions for that voice, and I think we can be freer in terms of the executions, but the voice is pretty consistent. And I think that's what I'm kind of interested in. I think it's we can be more free, and as you know, the internet has changed things for advertising and stuff, but you still got to find a voice, and you've got a different delivery system.
I think that's coming back. The idea that you need a voice and you need to connect with people rather than just dealing with data. But and I think we like anything, we have a new toy, we play it to death, and we're going to go, hang on, this toy is a bit boring now, because you still need something to stand out, you still need something to resonate, you still need something to connect. You just got a different delivery system. Fine, get over it. You still need to make a connection with a human being, and you can do it through the head, you can do it through your heart, but that journey from your head to your heart is the hardest one. So I think the thing with the voice, which is quite interesting, I think that all of the things you've done, and obviously you've done them with Claire. I don't want to cut Claire out, but I'm talking to you. They're very you, and your voice is like, I'm trying to think of you being furious. Like you said, you didn't have a great time at Ligas. I can't remember you being down, angry, shouty.
Oh no!
So, and that comes over in all of, whether it's Howies, Do Lectures, Hieatt Denham. It feels a very upbeat, optimistic.
Yeah.
We can make this better kind of thing.
Yeah, no.
So it's not like an invented marketing voice.
Yeah, I mean, but that's my viewpoint on the world. I'm going to life is short, and you just go let's go and make everything as good as we can. And even the hard times, sometimes the worst of times, you need the worst of times for the best of times. And literally, if I didn't have gone to Ligas, I mean, I learned so much there. I mean, it wasn't an easy time, but it was I mean, at Saatchi's we had 6 weeks to write a campaign, and in Ligas we had a day.
Yeah.
And it was tough, but I wouldn't have started Howies if I hadn't gone there. And so, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It wasn't the easiest thing, but it was definitely one of the best things.
Yeah. I suppose
I do think the sense of optimism, but I believe in that.
Well, I suppose that's my point, really, is because when we talk about you need to create a voice and the voice of the brand, a lot of it can feel very marketing-y. It can sound like deceitful in a way. How do we bundle up this brand so that it feels very X or Y? Whereas I think your genuine voice as a human being comes through in those brands. It's not like, to some degree, there are some other innocent or some other brands feel like they've created a persona that seems appealing to appeal to people, whereas yours feels like you. It doesn't feel created. It feels like you. Now, either that's because you're very good at deceiving, or because it's very you, which I would think it's the latter.
I think the thing for me is actually, if you speak to Dan, who actually is now at Apple, but when you spoke to him, he was literally that guy who would write that label. Yeah. I mean, if you didn't know, you were going, "Oh my God, that's Dan." And so, I think for me, I'm going I love brands that you literally feel there's a human behind it, and actually, sometimes in advertising and marketing, they write that stuff to imagine that person exists, but it doesn't really exist, and therefore is very inconsistent. But if you do have the human being behind it, then it can actually be very consistent. And actually, that's what creative direction is about. That's why it's putting that consistency in. But I think I always kind of feel like they're gonna after we did Howie's, how are you gonna go and do that stuff because it was so personal? I'm going, well, but I've evolved now as well, so but I'm still going to take my voice with me. But I've learned a lot.
So, how tough was it to leave Howies, given that the DNA is all over Howies, your DNA, and you've got to extract yourself from that? Must have been tough.
Incredibly tough, and we did a deal with some people who said they really understood how important Wales was, and then a year later, they wanted to move all aspects of business elsewhere, and you're going, wow, okay. So it was a very low point, because, and I tried to buy it back, and I had, like I said, I had PPR who owned Gucci and Yves Saint Laurent. They were going to help me. So at the point, Timberland were for sale. I didn't know they were for sale, and they wouldn't entertain me buying it back. And so I had no choice but to leave. And it was really hard, because I tell you why it was hard. It was because, the mission was half complete. We'd done some really interesting things, but we were about to do some really amazing things. And then I'm the fan of Phil Knight. I'm the fan of Ali Dassler. And I was there going, God, we can go and do some really interesting things. And we half got there. So it was like a real disappointment. And I wasn't angry with Timberland or whatever. I was just angry with myself because I was there going, next time round, don't fuck it up. And I phoned, had a phone call with, arranged a phone call with Yvonne at Patagonia, and we'd nearly done something with them, so we got to know them a bit, not personally, but and I said to him, I said, look, Yvonne, I'm going to go again and do something else. But I need to know some things. I said, how did you keep hold of Patagonia? And he laughed, and he said, well, 40 years hard work. I'm going, yeah, I thought as much. And he said, and the second point, 2 remortgages. I'm going, oh, yeah.
All right.
And so, it was leaving Howies was the worst of times, but actually he's also now presented us with the best of times, and Hieatt's pretty incredible. We make, an amazing pair of jeans. We have people who have such great skills, and this town has all this incredible knowledge of making jeans. And come the end of next month, there'll be 25 of us. The aim is to try and get 400 people their jobs back. You go, and people go, oh, is that possible? And then it's not impossible. It might just be hard. And we haven't done anything in terms of, marketing or advertising that we want to do yet, because we've been so busy, first 3 years making sure you survive. And, just move factories to a place 3 times as big, and you go, wow, okay. And so I just think we're at that point where you go, God, we could go and do very interesting things now, and we haven't done very much on The Voice, and that's been starting a factory is not easy, and running a factory gets you busy and stuff. And I just think, God, we got to the starting line, and we go, that's pretty interesting.
So, in terms of Howies and Hieatt, what did Howies teach you not to do again, and what did it teach you to do again?
I think Howies taught me to really focus on try do one thing well, and for us it's we're going to make jeans. We're not interested in anything else. We're going to really focus on that. And that was a big learning. I think sometimes, Simon came down before he started Rafa, and we gave him all a list of factories and stuff, and he said, look, we're just going to make cycling gear for cyclists. And I'm going, yeah, you'll do well. And he has done well. And I think for us it's going there's enough, creative people out there, for us to go and get 400 people their jobs back. And so, the one learning is real sheer focus. And
is that I read a quote saying, be narrow.
Yeah, completely. And just go literally be narrow, be focused, say no to all the things that other people want you to go and do because they think you will do really well. And then the second thing is build a team, build a culture. And then, the third thing is go and make the world feel something for what you're doing. And actually we haven't done that much work on that thing yet. We've been so busy, make the product amazing, build a team. And so now, we're at that interesting point where you're going, okay, I think we can go and do interesting things now.
And what would you not do that you did it? Do you think with Howies you were too wide, or you listened to too many people, or what?
I think the other thing is go and learn how to run a business.
Yeah, so that was good practice.
Yeah,
the dry
and
run.
Thing of looking after the monies, We've been profitable last 3-4 years, I think probably 4 years, and so we don't have to go hunting for money. Do you mean? And also that patience are going it took Yvonne a long time to build Patagonia. You be patient; it's fine.
Yeah.
We make a great pair of jeans. We want to sell them to creative people. Apply some patience. Great brands are not built in a quarter, and 3 years, and just go in every day and go how do we get better today than we were yesterday? And if we literally ask that question each day, we won't have to worry about anything. And so there's not many distractions around here. I mean, we don't get too many. We've got a fair few film crews, admittedly, but I mean, there's not that many people come down for meetings. We just got get focused. Let's go and build this thing. Great team. We're trying to hire more grandmasters, and so it's actually making something. Seeing a roll of salvage denim come from Japan, and then we cut it and we sew it, and it leaves as a pair of jeans is pretty amazing. I mean, seeing something get made by people with such great skills, and you go, it's kind of you go, yeah. All we have to do is tell the world about it.
Yeah. So I've got to pull you up on one thing. You say do one thing well. So far, you're making jeans, you're publishing books, you're running lectures.
Yeah.
You're not really doing one thing.
Not doing well. I mean, that's what Tessa.
So where does do lectures fit into this?
Well, actually, Patagonia invited me to their tools camp when I was running Howies, and they do this thing once every 2 years, and they invite 80 people, and they go and give them the tools to lobby environmental causes. And I thought, God, that's such an extraordinary thing to do as a company. And I said, look, I literally can't come. I can't get to you on that date. I said, don't worry, I'll watch them, online, and they go, no, we don't film them. I'm going to go, that's a shame. And then, so I thought, also inspired by Tony Davison, who sent me a text, around about the same time, and it was don't just stand there, do something.
After Howies.
Yeah, and Dick Dastardly, and I was there going, oh, so we thought, okay, let's go and do a lecture series of people doing extraordinary things, and we'll do that. And it was never meant to be more than a one-off event. There was no plan. It was so it was kind of it was a happy accident, and here we are 10 years in, and but people go, oh, you're doing books. I'm going, well, actually, Miranda runs the book company. I mean, I have a phone call with her maybe once a month. I don't do very much, but I just interested in we can. I mean, if there's one thing I do is try and build teams.
Yeah.
And build that team around something that we want to change. And you go, okay, let's go and get our town thriving. Let's go and let's get those 400 world-class makers back to where their skills are. And so, I mean, there's a lot going on. But it's kind of interesting, and I feel very lucky to be living where I want, doing what I want, working with people I want to work with, and just seeing okay, I mean, how good can we get at this thing, rather than how big we can get at this thing. I just think if we drive the desire to go and be really good at it, then the consequence of that is we'll probably get big at it. And I always kind of think, we don't set a target of like, oh, let's go and grow this company by this. Let's set a company by how good can we get this thing. For a pair of jeans, we make a great pair of jeans, but it's also like how low impact can we be? How inventive can we be? And so it's a like a series of experiments, and you get to play them out each day, and you go, okay, that's pretty interesting. But the do is like like the tickets go on sale on March the 1st, and they sell out in an hour. I mean,
wow.
It's
And
like,
the books look like they're doing well too. They're everywhere.
Yeah, no, they Miranda's just signed a contract with Chronicle Books, who apparently are one of the best publishers in America, and and so you go, God, that's pretty interesting. And a £1.2 billion events company came to us and said, look, we really love to do lectures. And I'm going, yeah, so do I. And they're going, like, shall we talk? Which also means, in other words, they want to buy you. And I went to London, and they're going, we got a term sheet, and I'm going, look, just so you know, like, whatever the number is on that piece of paper, I'm not interested. Like, I mean, it's nice, nice to, you're nice people, but my children would never speak to me again if we sold it to.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, are you sure you don't want to know? I'm going, like, I definitely don't want to know.
For you. So I've got to ask then, one of the questions I would ask is how much of what you learnt in advertising has been useful now? But part of me thinks, and I didn't know about that early 13-year-old with his posters and his shoe contacts, and part of it feels like a very straight evolution from that 13-year-old to where you are now. And advertising was a stop-off rather than it,
Yeah, but I think it was like being around, like, advertising is like one of the best universities, because, I mean, you go to university just to hang out with really bright people, the degree, fine, whatever. But, like, you are the sum total of, the smart people you hang up with. And that's what advertising, like, work with yourself, or, the John Pants of the world, all these amazing, like, people, like, and some of the brightest brains, the brightest thinkers, the brightest strategists, and you're going, oh my God, and I just learned, like, such incredible communication tools, and you suddenly go, and so advertising is the best university in the world if you want to go and start, like, companies, brands, and filmmakers or wherever. It's just, that melting pot of crazies and, like, thinkers and, like, change makers, and you go, oh my God, it is like, and for me, it was just like incredible, and I mean, I literally loved it. I mean, I remember went out to New York and worked in New York for 6 months with AJAB, and
in Sarches,
yeah, and Sarches had just bought some agency, and at that point they were, like, suddenly the biggest advertising agency in the world, and you go, wow. And Arden had given us $500 to go and buy some interesting books, and I'm going, God, this is mad. And when we came back, all you wanted to know is going, where's the books?
Right. Oh, you had to buy the books for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he kept the interesting ones. And, but so you were, like, you're around those people, the Graham Finks of the world, the Jeremy Clarks, and, like, literally just people are just going, like, they're, like, seeing where their ideas can go. Do you mean? And you go, God, it's like there's no other place like it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't worked in it for a long time, but I'm sure everyone's saying it's changed, but I think that's still true. I mean, I would imagine it's true.
Do you see many ads nowadays that you get excited about, or you have the same feeling for, or brands even?
Like, now and again. I guess your kids, like, they suddenly go and, when your kids forward you an ad, you're going like, why isn't Hieatt doing this? And like, like Tessa, my youngest, like forward me like the Nike London film.
Yeah, that's
like,
great. Yeah.
You should be doing this. Why aren't you doing this?
She's got good taste.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fine. So I mean, there's still, I think it's. I mean, I think, I think rather than people have been really down on advertising, I think it's probably even more important now to be able to communicate than ever.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting times.
Yeah. Okay, Dave. That was great. Very inspiring. I think you're in an unusual camp from people I've worked with who've completely set their own path. We were talking. I was talking, ironically, with Peter Suter, who you talked fondly of earlier. Yeah. Who said, "Who do you think's done the best in advertising?" And we were trying to think of different names. Some different names were kicked around, but in a way, I think you have, because you've sort of completely followed your own path. Most of the people we were kicking around were people who'd started up agencies and made X million pounds, but you seem to have completely carved out your own idiosyncratic, personal, done it all on your terms. So
yeah, well, I think it's. And advertising is a great springboard for people to go and do that stuff, and I think. I do feel like sort of blessed and grateful just to go. Okay, let's go and see what we can do today.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like. I'm grateful to have worked in advertising. I'm grateful to have worked with all those like super bright people, even if they didn't. If they taught me how not to do things.
Yeah.
So I do feel I'm sort of lucky and like remember that run and you tell me about that ad. I'm going. That was like I just went, wow, that was such a truth. And
rejected by Tim, that one.
Well, Tim. To be fair, I don't know if he got it, and on that week when he went away, all those ads got run, and actually they all won awards, and you go, yeah. But to have that truth is you have to. That was like that. Those ads you did were seminal to me.
You're very kind. Okay, Dave, that's great.
Okay, man.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. I'll speak to you soon.
Pleasure.
I'm going to chase you and try and get some ads from you that you've done. I've got a lot of them, but we'll try and find the others.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks again, Dave.
Great
to talk to you. Bye.